Hi muckers, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you're all doing very, very, very well. Before we get into this video, if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please consider 67% of people that watch within the last couple weeks are not subscribed. So I'll be here every day if you want to consider joining. Okay, we have a big update. So the new episode of the Cancel Podcast has been posted and it's called Responding to Brooke's Tweets. And it is Tana initially at the start, basically addressing everything that has went on, which I think was a very, 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 very smart move. And then the rest of the podcast is Tana and Paige, her friend, basically taking the spot of Brooke for this episode. Now, so many people are speculating that Brooke is not going to come back to the podcast. Brooke's been dropped from the podcast. Let me tell you something. That is not what's happening here. They are going to wait for this, for like a couple weeks, and then Brooke will be back. Basically judging by how Brooke has been on social media, I don't think she has any ambition to kind of walk away from anything that's going on in the online world, so she'll definitely be back. Also, one thing I want to clarify that has been really, really, really strange to me in particular, is Brooke Schofield has been making all these TikToks saying that she, wants to hear as many voices as possible. She wants to be educated on, learning more, and people that are calling her out, she really appreciates that, right? So Brooke Schofield followed me on Instagram. I want to clarify Instagram, not Twitter, because she deactivated her Twitter. On Instagram, like 2 weeks ago, maybe a week and a half ago, whenever I was in LA, and she had sent me a message being like, I'm obsessed with you, or whatever she had said. And I really loved the Cancel Podcast, was very excited about this. Obviously, everything came out. Brooke had been posting, as many people, that are calling her out as possible, the more she gets to learn and grow. I was going to make videos regardless, whether I like a creator or not. And her tweets were quite honestly one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen in my entire life. So, of course, I was going to talk about them. Isn't it really ironic that Brooke immediately unfollowed me on Instagram after my first video? So I did a little bit of digging, and I find that so many people are getting unfollowed and blocked by her on TikTok, who are talking about what she's tweeted. So this is actually really interesting that publicly she's saying she wants people to call her out so she can continue to learn and hear as many perspectives as possible. But in actuality, she's unfollowing and blocking people that are calling her out. So a little bit of a ironic, hypocritical note to start on. But anyways, we're going to get to this from Tana, basically addressing the audience at the start. And again, I do think it was really important for them to have some sort of acknowledgement rather than just going into a new episode. And to be fair, in this episode, they do talk about kind of the impact they're realizing they have with the podcast and what they want to do. And obviously, after every influencer gets canceled, they have that conversation of, now I'm realizing the impact I can have. So hopefully they actually stand by it. And when Brooke inevitably comes back to the podcast, there is change that happens, and what that change looks like, that's on Brooke to figure out. But anyways, we're going to get to this opening from Tana. Now, again, same way like we talked about with Trisha Paytas, there is going to be people that say, well, why should Tana Mongeau be the one that's speaking about Brooke being racist because of all her old racist tweets? And here's the thing. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Tana addresses this and people go, well, you're not the one to talk about this. And then she doesn't and people go, oh, so you're ignoring it. So ultimately, the same way with Trisha, if you have a platform and you've platformed that person and now the audience are left in the dark, I do think it's important to address this. I think Tana does this very, very, very well. I have watched this before. I will always tell you if I've watched something before I start filming. I watched it this morning. I thought it was a very good, composed way of talking about it. And I'm very glad that she didn't make excuses for Brooke, and I'm very glad that she carried herself in a very real way rather than this like influencer prepared way, even though it probably was prepared. I also do want to clarify that Brooke knew about these tweets for a very long time. She had said that she didn't want to address them, even though they would continuously come up over the months and over the years, because she didn't want to bring attention to them to upset more people, which obviously we know is bullshit. So we could assume that Tana also knew about these tweets, but for the sake of this, I'm going to pretend that Tana didn't know anything, which I struggle to believe, but it would be an unproductive conversation to do that.
Hello and welcome back to the Canceled Podcast. Obviously, as you guys can see, I am alone on this couch. Brooke is not here with us today, and I want to be abundantly clear that that was my decision. We all saw the tweets, and They're fucked up and they're horrific. And I'm saying that as a white person, right? Like, I cannot even imagine being a black non-fan or fan and reading those tweets. And I've made it very clear to Brooke as well that I condemn her for these tweets, and they're fucking horrible, and I have no right to forgive her as a white person for the things that she said. Before I get into a little more of my thoughts on this.
Already, I think setting the tone here is very great. We've been seeing a lot of creators cover this, and they're accepting the apology on behalf of the black community, people of color, and I think it's important to immediately enter this with, as much as I can say, I can't be the one to forgive.
I'm also wrong in this situation, and I want to be open and honest with you guys about that. When Brooke made her first apology video, I commented on it and I said, "We grew up bad, I love you," and immediately regretted it so hard. Realized how fucking stupid it was for me to fucking say that. I'm going to beat myself up for that forever, quite frankly. It's not my place as a white person to forgive her or add to the problem and further the narrative of white people forgiving other white people. And it's not enough to just write these things off as we grew up bad. And I think that I learned that now, and that shows me that I still have things to learn and unlearn. And I just first wanted to apologize to anyone I hurt for commenting that on her video. I might be the last person you guys...
Now, here's the thing. I am very in the influencer scene. I will see a lot of shit that happens very quickly. I have my update pages. I have my burner accounts. I have whatever. No, I did not see this comment from Tana, nor did anyone send it to me. And I really liked that she brought up that she had commented that, and the fact that she did acknowledge that it was wrong and apologize for it, because there's a lot of people like me that didn't even know she did that, and I think it's important just to kind of own up and be fucking honest. And yeah, she shouldn't have commented that, and she's acknowledging that. And again, there's a huge chunk of people, myself included, didn't even know she commented that.
Or anyone wants to have a take on Brooke's tweets. I'm not a perfect person, and my hands are not clean in any of this. You guys have known forever about my old tweets that I tweeted in 2013 and 14, and the vines that I were in, and the things that I've said, and I've apologized for them a million times, and I'm more than happy to apologize until the day I die. They were hurtful and disgusting and racist, and I know that. While I do think that I've grown so much as a person from who I was in those tweets at that time, I know that there's always more growing for me to do, and that's why I wanted to talk about this today. I felt like if we just started the episode, Paige and I saying hello and welcome back to the Canceled Podcast, that's just exercising my white privilege, and it's not something that I want to do or be any part of, quite frankly. I'm hoping Brooke is taking the time right now to reflect and grow and learn in a lot.
Which I think a lot of us would be hoping she's doing. But again, unfollowing and blocking creators is really, who are talking about this, is really something that shows that you are not wanting people to talk about this, which unfortunately kind of shows that you're really not as mature as maybe people are trying to give you credit for.
Ways that I did. And listen, I have always known from my first apology video and forever for the rest of my life that there will be people who will never forgive me for many things I have said and done online, for many of my ignorant, horrible takes. You know, and I told Brooke this the other day. I said, you have to make peace with the fact that there will be people that never forgive you, and this may recirculate for the rest of your life, and you have to be ready to be open and honest and talk about it, right? And I do want to say something right now that I don't necessarily know if it's going to go over well. And if it doesn't, listen, I read all of your comments. I see every TikTok. I see everything you tag me in. You are the first people who can tell me, shut the fuck up, you shouldn't have said that. And I will come back on this couch next week and actively learn and grow in front of you. I have known Brooke for 3 or 4 years now. And we have been working on the Canceled Podcast for almost 3. And I asked her to sit down on the couch, and it ended up snowballing into this thing where she is my co-host, right? And in all of that time that we worked together, touring, everything, I never once saw or heard her exhibit any behaviors that, or words or anything that align with those tweets. And if I did, I wouldn't be sitting here saying any of this right now. We would have never made it this far. I would have cut her off fucking immediately. And that's not to excuse anything that she says. And it's not to say that I don't think she has so much more growing and learning to do as a person at all. Obviously, again, I'm a white person and I can never imagine the pain. The Trayvon Martin tweet in particular, I have never,
And this is what I really, 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 really thought was good about this. We are seeing so many people cover this topic, and they are talking about Brooke Schofield's racist tweets, this umbrella term of racist tweets. Now, the fact that quite honestly, the person with the biggest platform who's going to talk about this, the platform that Brooke was on, is not only addressing the racist tweets, but addressing Trayvon Martin, I think is so fucking important and needed. And I think we're so used to expecting people to just do the bare minimum when covering people getting called out that I think it's a really great step that Tana actually focused on the reason that the tweets were wrong, which is the Trayvon Martin tweets.
I will never align with those thoughts and values. I remember when it happened, and it was the murder of an innocent 17-year-old black boy that was committed by someone that he should have been able to trust with his life. I can't imagine being his mother or his brother or his friends or his family and seeing this shit circulate again in the media at the hands of a white person. I don't know. I just like, I can't believe it, and I don't know what to say. It's fucking horrible. And I'm not Brooke, and I don't want to speak on Brooke's behalf, but obviously I have shared this couch with her. If I didn't say something at the beginning of today's episode, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. I just want to let you guys know that I'm seeing everything everyone's saying, and I just don't want to be a further part of that problem. I don't want to exercise my white privilege ever. I'm aware of it, but I don't want to exercise it, and that's why I'm speaking on this today. I think that I've seen a lot of feedback just in general, and I know where I want the future of this podcast to go, and I will always read your guys' comments. I will always be a chronically online fuck, and I see every TikTok and everything everyone is saying, and I don't want to be any further part of any problem. And I want you guys to know that I think the tweets are disgusting, and I hope she is taking the time to grow and learn what she needs to and intake the information she needs to and speak to people of color and understand the pain that they felt while reading those tweets. My hands aren't clean in all of this, and I'm not trying to.
Again, not to beat a dead horse here, but again, it's really unfortunate that you have Tana on the Cancel podcast, you know, basically saying that, well, I can only hope that this is the time that Brooke is learning and growing and stuff. And then you just have so many people online, myself included, I can literally confirm this myself, who Brooke does not want you talking about this. And then how can you grow if you're not hearing people tell you why it's wrong? Like, you're only then living in the imagination world of all these TikToks from fellow white people saying, anyone else think we should just forgive Brooke? And how unproductive is that? So I think it is incredibly unfortunate that we have Tana on the Cancel podcast, you know, speaking very well, may I add, speaking very well. I've never heard Tana speak this well about Brooke. Meanwhile, Brooke is not doing anything to help herself or Tana or anything. Like, it just so unproductive. So unproductive.
Come to this with a holier than thou perspective. I think that I know back in the day I had to take the time to grow and learn, and that's exactly what I want for Brooke in this situation. But at the same time, I am very shocked and hurt by a lot of those tweets. And I can't imagine the pain that so many black people felt reading that tweet or dealing with racism. And I never will be able to. All I can do is educate myself. I saw a TikTok the other day on my For You page that said, for every white person that has to unlearn racism, there is a black kid somewhere that has to unlearn the hate that was instilled in them. And that shit just really sits with me. And that's why I've always said I know that there will be people that won't forgive me for the things that I've said and done. And I recognize that. But I've always wanted to show and showcase and advocate for my own growth. And that is what I want for her. But with all of that being said, I will be always reading your guys' tweets and comments, and I'm wanting to open this conversation and unafraid of opening this conversation. And will always take further criticism and help to grow. And that's exactly what I've been doing these past few days, is doing my best to continue to learn and educate myself and unlearn any behaviors that I don't resonate with and don't want to be. I'm donating the proceeds of this episode of the Canceled Podcast and my entire TikTok creator fund to the Trayvon Martin Foundation. And I'm just really sorry to anyone that is hurt from this. And again, I don't want to speak on Brooke's behalf, but I sat on this couch with her, and for that, I feel that I have to say that. I love you guys so much, and thank you for hearing my thoughts on this, and I'm always wanting to hear yours. I love you.
Wow. Okay. And ending it with that, you know, again, bringing it back to Trayvon Martin and the Trayvon Martin Foundation, and, you know, donating all of what this podcast will make, which I assume will be a lot, and the TikTok creator fund that she was talking about in the same retrospect. It's productive. You know what I mean? It's productive. It's taking a terrible situation and trying to be productive with it, which is so unfortunate that Tana's doing this and Brooke isn't. Anyways, I think Tana handled that really well. I actually don't think that there could have been a better way for Tana to handle that. I think she spoke very well. She hit the great. It was great. Now, again, it's just unfortunate that we're hearing that Brooke isn't being cooperative with this. And maybe she is, but I mean, judging by the stories we're hearing, not really. No. Again, I do want to clarify, whenever I say this is good, I'm in no way saying in terms of Tana forgiving Brooke or whatever. I don't think that that's what that was at all. I think you get what I'm saying. But I just mean in terms of Tana being someone that people are like, well, why should you speak about it? You've been racist. That's unproductive. So what, Tana can't talk about this? No, that's not what should happen. I think with everything considered, this is probably the best way Tana could have handled this. And again, I think just focusing on Trayvon Martin, the proceeds. Yeah. All right, well, I will see you in my next one. We'll talk down below, and goodbye.